Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about ordering rational numbers. Last class we talked about how to convert numbers or different forms of numbers into decimals. So we're going to utilize that skill today to help us order rational numbers that are written in different forms. But first we need to go through some vocabulary. So let's start with ascending. Ascending means that we're going to order from least to greatest. Descending means that we're going to order from greatest to least. All right, so let's come down here and take a look at this chart. First thing we're going to do is, on line 2, write the number as a decimal. So we're going to convert. Well, the first one is pretty easy, 0.75. That's already a decimal. We don't need to do anything to it. To convert 1/8, remember we're going to take that and put that into our calculator. It becomes 1 divided by 8. And that will give us 0.125. Then we need to convert 2/3. So again, that's going to be 2 divided by 3 in our calculator, which gives us 0.6 repeating. Next, we have a percent. So if we want to convert a percent to a decimal, we have to take our decimal point and move it left 2 times. So I'm going to take my decimal point that I have here, and I'm going to move it left. So even though this is already written as a decimal, it has that percent sign on it. So that means this can actually move over 2 more times. So it's going to go right there. And we put a 0 in that blank spot, which gives us 0.008. All right, and then next we have the square root of 57. So we put square root of 57 into our calculator, and we get 7.5498. All right, now when I compare decimals, I like them to actually be the same length. So I look for my longest one, which is this. I have 4 decimal places. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add up to 4 decimal places onto the end of each decimal. So I'm going to add a 0 onto this one. Oops, that looks like I need to make that a little bigger so it matches. All right, so I added a 0 onto this one here, just to make it equal. I'm going to add some 0s onto this one. Well, this one here actually needs some 6s since it's repeating. So I'm going to add 3 6s. This one I'm going to add a 0 to the end. This one, I'm going to add 2 zeros onto the end. So now that I've got all my decimals the same length, now it'll be a little easier to order. So the next thing I'm going to do is put a 1 under my smallest decimal and then up to a 4 under my largest decimal. So when I start comparing, we're always going to start from the left and work our way to the right of each number. So we're looking for the smallest because we want least to greatest. We want ascending order. So this one has the biggest first number. That means that's going to be my very biggest number. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put my 5 there. So in this case, this says up to 4. That really should be a 5 because we have 5 numbers. All right, so now as I compare, my smallest one, so I'm going to go to my first decimal place. I have a 7, a 1, a 6, and then a 0. There's my smallest one right there. So that gets a 1. All right, so now I'm going to compare again my first numbers. I've got a 7, a 1, and a 6. All right, so this is my smallest out of those 3, so that gets a 2. Now I'm down to these 2 here. I've got a 7 and then a 6. So that's my third, which makes this my fourth. And then again, we said this was our 5th one because that had a 7 as a whole number compared to the others with a 0. All right, now our job is to write these in order from the smallest to the biggest. But the key is we have to use the original form. So not the converted form, but the original form that they were in. So I'm going to start with 0.8% and I'm going to end with the square root of 57. So, whoops. I had 0.8%, then I had 1/8, then I had 2/3, then I had the 0.75, and then last I had the square root of 57. So now I've got them in their original form in order from least to greatest. Okay, so our steps: convert all numbers to the same form. Typically it's going to be decimal form. And then put them into order based on the directions. So that means, do they ask for ascending order or descending order? All right, and then remember, always write your final answer with the numbers in their original form. Right? That's key. Your answers always have to be written in the original form. All right, so now let's go to the next page. I want you to try this one on your own. I want you to take these and put them into ascending order. Remember, ascending means least to greatest, smallest to biggest. So use this space here for each of these to convert, and then number them 1 through 4 for your order. Come down here and put them into the proper order. All right. Go ahead, pause your video now to work out that problem. Okay, I hope you guys were able to complete that one, and we'll make sure to put the answers up next time in class. All right, example 2. Put the following in descending order. So descending, down. So we're going to go from the greatest to the smallest. So if we were to convert them, I've got negative 2/3. All right, if I put that into my calculator, that gives me a negative 0.6. Negative 0.7. Well, there's nothing to convert there. It's already a decimal. Negative 0.61. That's also already a decimal. I don't need to change anything. If we remember for scientific notation, my exponent tells me what to do with my decimal. So since my exponent is negative 1, it means I need to take my decimal point and move it left 1. So right now, my decimal point's sitting right here. So I'm going to move it left 1. All right, so when I do that, it gives me a negative 0.6. These are all pretty close together, so we're going to want to be really careful with that. So again, sometimes I like to add numbers to the ends of them to even them all out. This one has 2 decimal places, while the rest of these have 3. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make that a little smaller, and I'm going to add a 0 onto the end of this one. This one already has 2 places. I'm going to add a 0 onto the end of this one, just to even them out a little bit. Oops. Now when I get to the repeating one, I'm not going to add a 0 to the end of it. I'm going to add a 6 to the end, because it's that 6 is repeating. Spread that out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now I'm really comparing. We could kind of hide the 0 in the decimal point, and I'm comparing negative 66 to negative 70 to negative 61 and negative 60. So remember, these are all negative. They work the opposite. So my smallest one in this case is going to actually kind of look like the biggest. Okay? And then my biggest is going to look like my smallest. So since we want descending order, biggest to smallest. So descending order. So my biggest one is negative 0.6. The next one in the list then would be negative 0.61. The next one would be negative 0.6 repeating. And then my smallest would be negative 0.7. So let's put them all in order. So the smallest ended up being negative 6 times 10 to the negative first power. That's my first one. Right. Second was the negative 0.61. Number 3 was negative 2/3. And then number 4 was the negative 0.7. Okay, this is the end of our notes. So you can go ahead and stop the video, and then I want you to try this one on your own. And we'll put those answers up once we are in class. I will see you next class.